Welcome, mothers, fathers, family, and friends. I am Gina Harris, and I'm the CEO at Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. I'm honored to welcome you to the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep Remembrance Walk. When a child loses his parents, they are called an orphan. When a spouse loses his or her partner, they are called a widow or widower. When parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them. These are the words of President Ronald Reagan in 1988. Today, we still do not have a word to call those who have lost a baby. We are gathered here today because we have been impacted by pregnancy and or infant loss. And while there is not an adequate word to call this community, our hope is that today you will feel united with others who have walked in this very difficult journey. Our hope is that you will not feel alone in this journey. Our hope is that you will find healing and peace by honoring your baby in this remembrance ritual. It was just over 11 years ago that I lost my first baby, and then within another year, lost my second baby, David and Ethan. And it was at a walk, this walk in Colorado, where that truly helped my healing journey to come together with others who have had losses as well. And so I unite with you in my losses of David and Ethan, my stillborn babies, and then also my two babies that I lost through miscarriage. So no matter when you have experienced your loss, at what stage, we unite with you and journey together with you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the MC for today's event, Lindsay Dennis. I met Lindsay over the phone and had an instant connection as we share similar stories. Within a few weeks of learning the news of her first daughter's diagnosis, Lindsay began to blog about the unfolding story of hope and loss. Within the first week, she had thousands of views, and within a couple of years, she had 1.5 million page views and 400,000 unique visitors to her blog. Her story is so powerful that it was featured right here locally on a news station in Orlando, but it's also something that Yahoo News had picked up. So they picked up this story. Our organization was not aware of this, but the story had received so much traffic that it led people to visit the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep website, and so many people visited our website to find out information about us that our website crashed. So it was definitely an opportunity to share with people about our organization. Once you hear Lindsay speak, you are going to want to know more about her story. She does have a book available here at the walk called Buried Dreams. The moment I picked it up, I could not put it down. It is more than her story. It is a book that gives hope during a devastating time. Lindsay lives here in Orlando with her husband, her son, and her new baby daughter. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Lindsay Dennis to the stage.
Thank you, Gina. Good morning. It's such an honor to be a part of this walk, to be a part of this organization, and to have the privilege of standing with you and honoring the children we deeply love, miss, and remember today and every day. Yesterday, I turned 40, and my birthday over the last 6 years has held many emotions. Not because I dread the aging process, truthfully, I embrace it, but 6 years ago, just 2 days before I turned 34, I was 20 weeks pregnant with my first daughter and found out at a routine ultrasound that she would not live once born. Devastation didn't even begin to describe how I felt in those moments. Turning 34, I knew was going to be the first and last time that I would have to spend with my firstborn daughter. We were in shock, but we chose to celebrate her life and carry her to term, marking each week of her life with some kind of celebration, aided by a growing number of friends and even strangers who rallied around us to lift our arms to celebrate this little life and to care for us, doing things like giving us baking supplies to make cookies with her, giving us gift cards so that her daddy could take her on a daddy-daughter date that was quite extravagant, in which I got to go with him. And then my brother orchestrating me being serenaded by 98 Degrees at the Amway Center. There were joyful memories in the midst of the sorrow of knowing that I was going to lose her. And there were two individuals that came alongside of us in that time, there to document the sacred and precious moments we would have with our daughter because of Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. Within the first few weeks of finding out our daughter's diagnosis, we contacted Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, who I had heard of through a dear friend whose baby was stillborn. I never would have imagined that I would have needed the services of Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. Two now dear friends, Scott Taylor and Amanda Kern, stepped into our lives and story with a heart and willingness to document whatever precious moments God would give us with our little girl. And on September 1st, 2013, they were there along with a hospital room filled with people as Sophia Kyla Dennis was born and lived a precious and unexpected 10 hours of life. We grieved deeply her loss as we filled our home with photos of her and looked through those moments, trying desperately to relive them, while hoping for how our family would continue to form. 6 months later, I was pregnant again with my second child, another little girl. We had no medical reason to believe that Sophie's condition would reoccur, and so as we stepped into the ultrasound, where we would find out whether she could live or not, I only thought of all the other things that could go wrong. Surely I wouldn't walk the same journey twice. Surely God would not ask that of me. And yet we found out that our second daughter had a similar condition and also would not live. We again chose to celebrate her short life while our hearts were breaking, and I wondered how I would survive such agonizing loss. This time it was grieving not only the loss of a child, but the loss of our hopes and dreams for how our family would form and if our family would and could continue to grow. I wondered if people would rally around us again as they had with Sophie. It felt like too much to ask others to enter into such loss twice, and yet we desperately needed people on this journey. And people did indeed show up. They rallied around us, and they called themselves our supporting cast standing for come alongside of them. And though we still celebrated her life simply and extravagantly, it was a much darker and lonelier time. And our friends met us in that space of grief, and they gave us notes every day as we anticipated the arrival of our daughter, filled with encouraging sayings, sometimes Bible verse, sometimes a very welcome Starbucks card. And on November 13th, 2014, at 8:25 a.m. that morning, we welcomed Dasa Brielle Dennis into the world and into our arms, with Scott and Amanda once again by our side, documenting the beginning of what would be a precious 12 hours of life. Saying goodbye and living without my first two daughters has been excruciating. And I long for the day when I will see them again. But I have also been surprised in the midst of my grief and sorrow at the ways that joy has shown up in my life. I had no idea how joy and pain could dance together so brutally and yet so beautifully. I only looked ahead and imagined when we found out their diagnosis what pain would lie ahead. It was hard to imagine that so much joy could exist too. There's been joy in the memories we made in the short time with our girls, joy in the friendships that have formed that would not have otherwise, and joy in the ways their short lives have impacted our own and many more. There's joy in watching our now 3-year-old son who was adopted say their names and love them. Joy in seeing our now little girl resemble them and yet be her own person. Joy in how my husband and I have come to know the great love of God in ways we never could have comprehended. And so much of that joy and healing has come through the ways others before us have given us tools to know how to walk this strange and complicated road that is grief. Though let me be clear, it is not a joy or healing absent from great sorrow and tears. So I wanted to share a few things that have been helpful for my husband and I as we navigate the aftermath of no longer having our first two daughters with us and see our hearts slowly healing. I'd like to introduce to you my husband, Kevin Dennis, who truly has been a steady and unwavering constant in my life, encouraging and comforting me in my own grief as he wrestles with his. I asked him to share one of the things that has been helpful to us in growing and grieving as a couple, for I know that that is a challenge in our grieving journey, is to walk with our partner and understand how we both grieve differently. So I don't know where he is.
Thank you. Trying to round up our 3-year-old over there. But as Lindsay shared, just the realities of grief as we all can relate to here are deep. Many days they're overwhelming. But then as a couple, it adds a whole nother complexity to it because you're grieving yourself, but you're also trying to figure out how do we walk through this together. And oftentimes grieving can be incredibly isolating. Many people can't relate to what you're experiencing. And sometimes even your spouse, your other family members can't relate directly to what you are experiencing. And it can create great isolation in those realities. Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep has played a huge part for us in just the photos of our children and also just their support as we have walked through that and helped us to grieve together. And the reality is also of oftentimes not experiencing the same things in grief, but trying to be present with each other in our grief. And we have stumbled through that and continue to stumble through that of how do we openly share with each other the things that we're feeling on a given day, the things that we're experiencing, and while the other person may not be experiencing the same things, we're able to be present with each other in it. And that presence has been huge. Through the photos of our children, getting to be reminded of them, but also being present with each other as we've walked through grief together and trying to figure out how do we do this as a family and grieving well together, and the deep things that are happening in that grief.
Thank you. Something that I've had to learn is how to be gracious griever. That has translated into being gracious with my husband too. But how do I extend grace? Meaning giving something that is undeserved to those who say hurtful things, unknowingly hurtful things, good friends that don't show up in the ways that I thought they would or thought they should. People that slap on trite sayings or Bible verses as if a Band-Aid would heal a gaping wound. This has been challenging for me, but choosing to be gracious to others, knowing there was a time when I didn't know what to say or didn't show up while others grieved and still often don't know what to say because I'm simply was unaware, has helped my heart stay soft and not grow bitter. It has allowed many relationships to stay intact and now be sweet when I could have easily shunned people and lived in isolation. I recognize that there are many people here with varying beliefs about God, about life, about spiritual things. And Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is not a religious organization. But I know that many people, including myself, when faced with loss, people who believe in God may have a crisis of faith. So I would be remiss to not share that one of the greatest things that has brought hope and healing in my grief has been learning how to bring my pain to God, to ask the hard questions, truly wanting His response, and learn the language of lament. Lament was a foreign word to me. It still is quite a foreign word, one that we don't talk about a lot. And the author, Dan Allender, says in a wonderful article called The Hidden Hope in Lament, a person who laments may sound like a grumbler, both vocalize anguish, anger, and confusion. But a lament involves even deeper emotion because a lament is truly asking, seeking, and knocking to comprehend the heart of God. A lament involves the energy to search, not to shut down the quest for truth. It is passion to ask rather than to rant and rave with already reached conclusions. A lament uses the language of pain, anger, and confusion and moves towards God. I surely have had language of pain, anger, and confusion. In the great devastation of losing Sophie and then Dasa, I wanted to have a reason to turn from God, who I thought I knew and understood how He worked. But God began to draw me near to Him and reveal Himself and His love to me in the middle of all my questions, not when I stopped having them. Questions like, God, do you see me? Do you care? Where are you? Where were you? You say you are good, but this is not feel good. Where is your goodness in this? The Bible has been a great source of power, comfort, and healing to my soul. In it, I have been reminded that this pain I feel is not in fact how it was supposed to be, and there is a God who wants to comfort us and give us hope in this life that is full of so much pain. There is a verse in the Bible in Psalms that says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." It is not okay that our babies died. It is not okay that we have had to live with our arms aching. And it is good that we are not okay with this reality because it points to the reality that we were not made for this kind of heartache. that this was not how it was supposed to be. And this recognition has led me to a deeper awareness of God's heart to restore all the things that are broken in our world. It's why he sent Jesus to take on our pain, conquering its power through his death and resurrection, so that we can live in hope in the pain as we await the day where one day all will be made new. In learning to lament and engage with God in my questions and pain, when I had wanted to turn my back, I discovered a God who sent his son Jesus to suffer so that I could know he knows my pain and loves me with an everlasting love. There is a verse in the Bible that says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know it well." When I knew that Dasa would not live, I wanted to make her something that she would be wrapped in immediately when she was born. So I learned how to knit a blanket. And as I knitted the blanket, I thought about that verse over and over and over again because it took me a very long time to knit it, and I had never knitted before. And I wrote this poem called "She Knitted Me" as told through the eyes of Dasa's blanket, and a reminder to me of the astounding love of God for me and for our children, and I'd like to close with this poem. This is the blanket that I knit for her. That was the first thing that she was wrapped in when she was born. She Knitted Me by Dasa's Blankie. I began to be woven by my Creator not long ago. At first, I thought I'd be a headband to keep someone's hair from falling over their face. And then I grew and thought, now surely I must be a scarf to keep someone's head and neck and ears all warm and snug. But my Creator told me, no, I have far greater plans for you. You will be a blanket to wrap my daughter the moment she's born. A baby blanket. I could hardly believe the words she spoke. I had heard of these blankets that little babies cuddled in from the moment they were born. They became a favorite possession, cried over, chewed on, worn, loved, never forgotten and cherished by their owner. A roll of yarn could only dream of becoming such a prized gift. And here I was learning that this was to be the journey I would take. What joy filled my little threads. But before I could start dreaming of when this little girl would cry in bed because she wanted her Blankie or Binky or Boo Boo or whatever name she gave me, or when her heart would calm, cuddled inside of me while her mommy held us both, my Creator smiled with tears in her eyes and said, that may not be your path. I was filled with disappointment as I shouted, what do you mean? How? Why? My little threads crushed to the core. She responded softly to my anger. For this little girl may only need your covering but for a moment, and then she will be fully covered by her Creator. I didn't understand. And something inside of me thought, what a tragedy for my Creator to spend so much time and energy making me a blankie for her little girl, to only serve my purpose but for a moment. What a silly thing to do. So in the midst of my fresh disappointment, all I could do was watch and wait for what would become of me. And I watched as my Creator knit me. I watched as she cried tears over my threads, thinking of this little ball of cotton covering her great gift. I watched as she unraveled me when the stitch wasn't quite right. I watched her pray over so many stitches for this little girl of hers, and I watched her love as she knitted me. She spent hours, I lost count of how many, stayed up far later than any woman expecting a little baby should stay up, in my opinion, to create me for her little girl. And just as I thought of how much love was poured into knitting me for this little girl, I started to think of how my Creator had said that this little girl may soon be with her Creator. It made me think of this Creator of hers. I've heard a little baby gets created in her mommy's tummy for even longer than I have, 9 months. But she was only going to be here for a short amount of time. And well, that seemed silly to me too. But then I thought of my own Creator's love and tears poured into making me, and I'm just a thing. And this little girl is a real live person. If my Creator thinks that it is worth it to create me a prized blankie for her little girl that won't live the life I'd hoped for, then I bet this little girl's Creator thinks she's worth it to create her to live on this earth for such a short time too. He must really love her to spend so much time creating her. It was then that I remembered something else my Creator had told me. She said some mommies only cover and carry these special babies in their tummies for a few weeks or months, and then they go back to their Creator. This had made me sad at first. But when I thought of their creator, it filled my heart with hope and joy, for even those little babies must be so valuable, so beautifully made and loved to be created at all. So I began to thoughtfully piece all of these things together, and it hit me. If my creator could trust her creator, the creator of her little girl, with what he's created them for, well, then I guess I can trust my creator with what she is making me for. I may not be this little girl's favorite blankie to grow up with, though I sure do hope I am. But my creator said that I would be her most cherished gift because she created me with love to be the one to cover her most precious gift first. I guess the joy of my creator and simply creating me can be my joy too. So when the time came to wrap that little girl in my cotton threads, I proudly kept her warm, felt her wiggles and kicks, and watched. I watched as her mommy and daddy oohed and awed at her and told her with pride that I was made just for her. I watched as her family and friends giggled and squealed at the little bubble she made that got me a little wet. I watched as they smiled and sang loudly happy birthday as this little girl, much to my surprise, slept soundly cuddled inside of me. And I watched as they loved. And it was then that I knew that I was lucky to be chosen for this very special purpose indeed. And when my purpose was fulfilled, and this little girl rested in her creator's arms, I rested in mine, as tears rolled down her cheeks and she held me tight. What pride and love was in her heart that she had chosen to knit me. And it was then that she leaned over and whispered to me, I wonder what my little girl's creator's thinking. What love must be on his face as he holds her tight, for did you know, little blankie, that he knitted her? My husband and I are still growing in this journey and ever learning how to engage with the grief that surfaces as life moves on, and there are so many new things to grieve we had not thought of before. But we do not grieve without hope, hope for the day that we believe all would be made new, and hope for how God may allow the comfort we have been given to comfort others. A great source of comfort for me has been music, and I hope the song that we are about to hear will bring comfort to you. I'm pleased to introduce to you Lisa Holst, who will be singing Winter Bear. Thank you, Lisa. That was so beautiful. We would not be able to conduct this walk without a number of instrumental volunteers, like singer Lisa Hulse, readers Doug Flegel, Anthony Bencomo, Scott Taylor, and Gary Vogel, our walk committee, our walk coordinator, Kristen Rivera, honoring Jacob Angelo Rivera, our volunteer committee lead, Tracy DiCaprio, honoring Anthony Michael Young, our registration committee lead, Doug Flegel, honoring Hyatt Flegel, and our sponsorship and marketing committee lead, Scott Taylor, honoring all babies lost too soon. And Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep volunteers. We would also like to thank everyone who volunteered today. Our Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep volunteers, photographers, and other volunteers. We would like to acknowledge the heartfelt dedication of the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep volunteer photographers and volunteers. Please stand and let us all give a round of applause to all of our volunteers. I would like to specifically acknowledge Scott Taylor and Amanda Kern, who are here today. If you could stand. Amanda's over here. I just would like to publicly thank you for walking alongside of our family. And I imagine this is true for every photographer here. You enter into sacred and brutal spaces, and you hold your own grief as you watch our families walk through ours. And you willingly do it with such great love and compassion. And I am so grateful for the presence that you've had in our family's life. Thank you. We would like to thank the organizations who have taken part in our resource pavilion to provide further support for families. It is critical that the pregnancy and infant loss support programs work together to best serve our community. We would like to thank these organizations for being a support to our community in a time of need. Angel of Hope, HEAL, PILR, the Finley Project, Mother's Milk Bank of Florida, Hyatt's Angels, Madison's Miracles. We would like to thank our sponsors. Presenting sponsors, Mother's Milk Bank of Florida, and our silver sponsors, Duck Detectives and Hyatt Angels. We'd like to thank the Rogue Pub. And please see your program book for additional in-kind sponsors. We would like to acknowledge the following teams who raised at least $500 in fundraising. All of the funds raised will go directly to serving families with remembrance portraits. These are families who at this moment likely do not know that they will need Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. But when they sadly do, you will help us be available to them. When we call your name, would your team please stand? Avel William, remembering Avel William Christ. Is that team here? Stand. Maybe? We can clap for them anyway. Baby Ollie, remembering James Oliver Sauls. Emma's Endearments, remembering Emma Margaret Bartz. In memory of Graham John Cowan, remembering Graham John Cowan. Team Holden Strong, remembering Holden Sean Kelly. Let's thank these teams for their efforts in helping us continue to serve more families who sadly will one day walk in our shoes. Now we will be reading the names of all the babies we are honoring and remembering today. As we do this, we ask for everyone to be respectful while each name is read by refraining from speaking and remaining quiet. Releasing a live butterfly for your baby is a unique way to remember and honor them. This butterfly release is optional. When you hear your baby's name, if you have a butterfly, please release your butterfly. But please allow the butterfly to fly in its own time, as some butterflies may be sleepier than others. Some of the butterflies may take 3 to 5 minutes to wake up. If you have a butterfly that does need to be replaced, please go to the area where you picked up your butterfly to replace it. Please welcome our readers.
Dakota Mayrosa Allegro. Baby Root. Tyler Chase Allen. Emma Margaret Bartz. Caitlin Paige Beckwith. Little One Beckwith. Gabriella Grace Bencomo. Kerrigan Hope Berkery. Brody Laiku Basara. Our Little Speck Bowman. Theodore David Brown. William Calvin Buchanan. Jakayla Denise Bullock. Emerson Grace Capra. Justin Matthew Chambers Reed. Parker Lee Coleman. Janice Maritza Cordero. Graham John Cohen. Avel William Christ. Julian Alexander Cruz.
Sophia Kyla Dennis. Dasha Brill Dennis. Olivia Faye Darrington. Levi Weston Edwards. Kayla Sophia Elias. Caroline Grace Feller. Hyatt Walker Flegel. Addison Lillian Frazier. Oliver Michael Gleber. Miles Ryder Gonzalez. Maddox Achilles Haggard. Jackson Thomas Hammond. Sophia Louise Hammond. Annabelle Joy Harden. Matthew Spencer Harper Jr. Elias Kayla Harper. David Paul Harris. Ethan Robert Harris. Olivia Grace Hawsey. Isla Elizabeth Hawsey. Mia Bella Hazen.
Nicholas James Incovari. Avril Fiona Jackson. Megan Elizabeth Johnson. Avery Marie Jones. Nesaya Elsa Jones. Naya Hope Jones. Holden Sean Kelly. Kevin Kirshner. Gianna Marie Kovatz. Bridget Jane Lagravenese. Anthony Dominic Leon Ramos. Angelia Vanessa Lott. Eli Palmer Vance Mallory. Lennox Lee Marion. Ethan James Merrick. Mauricio Mori. Christian Thomas Glenn Mullins. Mikhail Antonio Nomer. Ava Harham. Julian Skywalker Perez. Baby Eddie.
Jacob Angelo Rivera. Baby J. Ruiz. James Oliver Ollie Sauls. Grayson Thomas Signory. Braxton Roger St. Laurent. Simran Sue Brahmanian. Olivia May Taylor. Andy James Vargas. Aria Isabella Vega. Chelsea Francis Vogel. Willow Marie Walker. William Edward Waters. Jake Alexander Westine. Madeline Rose Wilcox. Luke Alfredo Williamson. Serenity Hunter Wolfram. Braden Michael Warsdale. Anthony Michael Young. Lucas Antonio Zevering. Grace Lynn Hope.
Gentlemen.
Gracelyn Hope.
Thank you so much to our readers for reading each baby's name aloud and giving us the opportunity to honor our babies while we are all gathered here together. If you have registered your baby's name and it was not read, please see Gina Harris on the side stage while Lisa Hulse sings "See You Again." Now joining us again, Lisa Hulse.
Said goodbye, turned around, and you were gone, gone, gone. Faded into the setting sun. Slipped away, but I won't cry, 'cause I know I'll never be lonely. For you are the stars to me. You are the light I follow. I will see you again. Oh, oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me, oh, till I see you again. Oh, 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 oh. I can hear those echoes in the wind at night, calling me back in time, back to you. In a place far away where the water meets the sky, the thought of it makes me smile. You were my tomorrow. I will see you again. Oh, whoa, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me, see you again. Whoa, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Yeah, I will see you again. Whoa, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, till I see you again. Oh, 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 till I see you again. Till I see you again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, till I see you again. Said goodbye, turned around, and you were gone, gone, gone.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We want to join together in unity as a pregnancy and infant loss community. When I announce what describes your relationship to the baby you are honoring today, would you please stand? If you are a parent honoring a baby today, please stand up and raise your hand. If you are a sibling, would you stand up and raise your hands? If you are a grandparent, would you stand up and raise your hands? If you are extended family, would you stand up? If you are friends, would you stand up? If you are Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep photographer and other volunteers, would you please stand? If you are supporter of this cause, would you please stand? Now please raise both your hands. With your hands raised, let's all join hands as a symbol of support and comfort in our journey. In your journey, you may have felt isolated and alone, but know that we walk here united and we stand with you to honor and show remembrance to your baby. Let's pause for a moment of silence that you can take to reflect, to pray, to think about your child. We would like to honor our children by saying their names out loud. Would you say your child's name or the child you are honoring today out loud with me right now? Sophie and Dasa. You may release your hands. As you release your hands, we will journey together for a reflective remembrance walk. We ask that all of you take this walk together. All babies' names, pre-registered, will appear alphabetically in groupings on large signs along the route. For those of you who created a tribute for your baby and raised over $125, you will also have an individual remembrance sign. This walk will be led by Kristen and Mike Rivera, who are standing over here, raising their hands. And we're going to be walking through where you registered on the sidewalk there. You'll follow them. If you have a remembrance sign along the route and would like to take it with you, please collect it before you leave. We ask that you take the metal stands and return them to the registration table. I'd like to thank you for being here today to share the memory of your babies with us. You can now journey on our walk. Please follow Kristen and Mike. Thank you so much.